Alright, so in this one, I want to give my thoughts on the Dragon Ball Legends 7th anniversary here, an overview, a summary of what has happened and what is going on from part 1 to part 2 to part 3. And I guess we're just going to go off here and say this anniversary was terrible. Now, I'm not going to put it as a bottom 3 anniversary. You know, you got the 2nd year, you got the 4th year, and, well, I guess you could say maybe 3rd, 5th, depending on who you are. You'll say which one of those was better or worse. The 7th year, though, is not as good as 1st year. It's not nearly as good as 6th year, and I'll get into how good 6th year was in the hindsight aspect of it. And as good as 4th year, I mean, it's not the greatest thing in the world. 4th, 3rd, 5th, they're all kind of just like those, who knows which one is the, near bottom of those. But this anniversary was not a success. The issue with it that's more so, like, poignant is that they hyped this anniversary up, which doesn't make sense because they hyped it up since essentially a year ago, saying the 7th year's gonna be the one. This is him, essentially. But think of the part 1 of last year, and then think of the part 1 of this year. Look at the characters. Again, I don't really particularly care about fusions much, but I can also acknowledge if they're dropping a dual fusion for part 1, oh, this is probably the anniversary that is meant to bring in the money bands, really bring in everything that is hype, that is cool, awesome stuff. As well as both these units having new mechanics with the Guaranteed Rush and the Assault Chain. Yeah, then we look at the part 1 of this year, and it's another UI Goku. We have a couple already, and then another Evo, which I understand Evo needed more showing in this game. Maybe UI could have held out a little bit, maybe another year, but every unit from this anniversary is uninspired. They're all, except for one unit, which is an Ultra, which we're not even there, is all having reused mechanisms. Evo has a gauge that is filling up, and you take time to fill up, and then once his gauge gets stronger, you get stronger. Okay, awesome, great. So he's just the worst of other transforming units, because once you transform with, let's say, MUI, compared to transforming with Evo, Evo is still ass, while MUI is a lot better than pre-MUI, right? So they're uninspired of their kits, and listen, this got leaked, and every UI gets leaked, and it's whatever. This MUI Evo shit, I don't know if there should have been a second LF within this theory, but this should have just been a tag unit. We need to do something cool. Yet again, this is the anniversary they hyped up as the Super 7th year anniversary. So do something cool within that, right? And all I care about character choice is really within part 1. Part 2, part 3, I can acknowledge it was good enough on the character choice. Part 1, though, is where you make your money bands. And when you go from, because objectively speaking, fusions do bring in the most money, a dual fusion to, no offense, our 4th or 5th UI that has nothing new introduced to him, and then an Evo Vegeta. As much as I like Vegeta, I'm never going to say that Evo Vegeta is part 1 worthy in any regard of life. He is going to get carried by his counterpart character. And if I really am thinking with logic here, yeah, we need a new Evo, but what if we got a new Kefla? I really would have been down, and probably fine, frankly, with maybe God of Topo 1% unit instead of Kill Khalifa. We get UI Goku, and then we get God Topo as another character that could have been introduced as 1% with an LF Kefla, an LF Hit, an LF whatever else. Evo Vegeta doesn't have enough dog in him to do a part 1. Again, if this was a duo tag unit of MUI and Evo, sure, 100% down. Drop one LF in part 1. I don't care. It's worth it at that point. Now that's going to be cool. But unfortunately, I'm not in this boat of just coping and saying, oh yeah, Evo, who does basically nothing that anyone cares about. He really does deserve this. Like, this is meant to be the hypest things of the hypest things. And not to say Evo's that boring, it's also that Evo's not that cool because there's so many other cool things and other units they need to rep. Like, we always get a fusion. We always do. Maybe straying away from that here this year was not what they felt, you know, the requirement to give, because we got triple fusions last year. Why are we getting another fusion this year? Because it makes you the money. It makes you the dollar bills, yo. And again, if we weren't going to get 2 LFs, these two should have just been a tag unit together. I feel like that's just the easiest thing they could have done. We got Go Frieza 5th year. We got 1 LF. It ended up going well by the end of it. And then guess what? People weren't mad about 1 LF. People were probably more excited about 1 LF, right? I would be more excited about 1 LF. We had, what, 1% on that banner? And then we had an LF? I mean, that sounds like a great banner to me. I don't have to go chasing everything, this, that, and the other. Imagine. All 4 of those units, it's just these two are combined of Evo and MUI, and then you had these 2 1% just right here. Wouldn't that have been awesome? I think that would have been great. So character choice for part 1, I think, is questionable. Again, UI, fine, whatever, it's easy. But Vegeta, no. I don't. No. Just no. Part 2, character choices. Again, you look at Ulton and Dooogote last year, which I would say Ulton, he's kind of sauceless, but like he did deserve an LF. Goku obviously did deserve what he got. Well, not as good as he was, but he did deserve an LF unit. Part 2 here. Listen, Saiyan Saga, my second favorite saga. And then Namek is my favorite saga. So I have inherent bias. A lot of people would say, well, it should have been fusions. And I was even under interpretation that they're going to bring it back here. Okay, little Evo man didn't really do too much. They're going to bring it back. Boom. Dual fusion is going to happen in part 2. I get what they're going for. I understand what they went for with this in part 2. Do I think it was perfect? No. Do I think it was positive? Yeah, they made you think this. They made you assume this because it just is common sense to assume a hype thing will happen during hype times. And when you're looking at hype things, you're trying to think of what's majority of what people would want. A new fusing Gogeta and then a DBS Broly. That would have been something that's like on the table for like part 2. I think most people were thinking that. The fact that we had Saiyan Saga, I'm okay with. I know a lot of people that aren't okay with it, but I'm fine with it. Again, it isn't a terrible decision. It just wasn't an expected decision. So does that make that bad? No. Again, I'm at like a 6, 7 out of 10 on that. With part 1, I'm at like maybe a 3 because UI is predictable. It's fine. It's just predictable. And then Evo just doesn't cut it for me. Just for part 1 character, when we went from double fusions to Evo Vegeta, I can't be on board. And then part 3 units, comparing UG4 to the Namek duo here. Just because it's dual ultras, I think it does match the caliber of UG4 because it is 2 of them. If it was just Namek Goku or just Namek Frieza, it wouldn't, but because it's 2 of them, I think it does. Obviously, this does leave a lot of room for interpretation of what's going to happen in the future. You know, is the next Fest going to be double ultras? The next Andy going to be double ultra? I don't want double ultras. I think it's not good. I want things that are more consumer friendly than non. And as much as people are so happy we got 2 ultras, which I don't know why anyone's happy about that. It's very bad. Especially how they're designed. Yeah, I just don't want double ultras. So it's like the character choice, fine. Again, I love Namek. It's my favorite saga. Sure, but like, I really don't like double ultras. And I guess this does lead into my more point of what these units did for the game in their parts. You look at part 1 here of UI, Count Caulifla, Evo, and the Kaba, and only half the units got used. UI with Count Caulifla, and then you get Rev UI Zenkai, or you run Goku, you run Miniku, you run blah 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 blah, UMV, whatever, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, whatever. You were essentially just running. I mean, you could run Mono Green. You could run Mono Green during this entire anniversary. Matter of fact, you could run a couple yellows because no one's going to run the red unit of Kaba. You could run whatever the hell you want, and it wasn't going to be part of these two's banners. So this is even more why they didn't matter because they even didn't drop in a presence of PvP value. Not even just, oh yeah, the character choice, not ideal for Evo. There's not even a presence of them. Maybe if it was a Kefla, it would be a shafted up unit. Maybe it was a duo MUI Evo. The MUI part would carry because it's a Goku. I don't know, but like, maybe. But all PvP was is kill Caulifla, then slap some greens, slap some yellows, or just drop a UI on the team. You know, run reps with kill Caulifla, Rev UI, and this UI here. Or once Hit got his plat, which was the week before part 2, you run Rev UI, UI, and then Hit, which I will say Ultra Hit's plat, while it is a positive in totality, it ended up being a nothing burger in the end of the day, because while that plat is very good, well, Hit is a very good individual unit, they did what they did in 2023, which I don't know why they did it, where part 1 units ended up being nothingness to part 3 units. So you had Evo Ken, Purple Jiren Zenkai, MVP 17. That was the part 1 team in 2023 Fest. Then by the end of 2023 Fest, it was Ultra UI, not on reps. You're not running Evo Ken, you're not running MVP, you're not running Jiren. And then you instead ran Goku Bardock, which is the part 2 LF, and then Pikkon Gogeta, which, again, it goes to my point, where reps was the best thing within a part 1, and then ends up becoming a whatever thing within the part 3. That is what happened here. Part 1, I'm talking about reps. That's the team you're going to run. That was the team being run, and it was awesome, great. And now you look at part 3, you are not fighting reps just because there's better spots for these units to coexist. If you want to run UI, which is the only real unit from part 1 you're ever going to face at this point, slap on Sunfam. Put them with Kaioken, put them with Namek Goku, and then boom, boom, boom. And even then, I would still say Fiku probably works better because you're running for more synergy at that point instead of just oonga boonga damage. That's what happens, man. Part 1 got power crept, and this more ties in with part 2, which part 2, what was the meta? Obscenely broken and abhorrently adjusted Saiyan Saga. And when I say abhorrently adjusted, I'm not saying negatively for the team, I'm saying negatively for the game. Once I learned Saiyan Saga is what it is, and fought it as much as I did, I tried using older units, and you know, I'm not going to sit around and say, let's say last year, here's Ultan and God Goku and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to sit around and say, you know, Golden Frieza was top tier meta, baby is amazing, blah, 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 blah. No, but I could definitely understand a thought process of saying, like, oh, baby could probably do something right now. He's not terrible right now. Yeah, Golden Frieza not being the worst thing in the world, especially if people don't run Fusing Gogeta Blue. You know, things could work out. Ultra UI get a little snipe potential on Ultan there. You got things that could actually maybe just work that's a little bit past its full date of new release. And that's awesome, right? That's an amazing thing. Now, that doesn't exist with Saiyan Saga. Do you think me running MZ when I'm fighting TN and the new Saiyan Saga LFs together is going to put the dent that Ultra UI could have put the dent in on Ultan, or on God Goku, or on Fusing Gogeta Blue, or on Fusing SV? No, MZ's a joke. Every unit that's not from Anniversary, even within Part 3 this exists, but it started in Part 2, is, frankly, goddamn near a joke. Even my boy here, I loved how good this unit was in Part 1. He was very simple, because they don't have cancel buff effects, those new LFs, right? MUI and Evo. And what happens there is you pop Cell's Blast, you pop his main, you get your neutral, then you one-shot or two-shot an MUI, like a UG4 type shit. And it was really good. Cell still had some value. He was still being able to fry and do his job well. And, you know, again, he was having a good time. Rev UI Zenkai, he has more safety. It's really good for Cell. And then Part 2 strikes, and I have myself frauding up against Kaiokens. I have myself getting made to look like a fool versus Fiku's, and I'm just here like, in Part 1, this didn't happen. There was no real power. I could run IT Goku, Super Saiyan, I could run Daima, I could run whatever the hell I want, really, from Part 1. We go to Part 2. If I'm running Cell, I'm legitimately fearing a 1% unit. I'm fearing Kaioken. The power creep from Part 1 to Part 2 is insane. As much as I like Ground Battle, it is cool. Ground Battle is the thing that has made everyone's game be crashing, whether it be the newest iPhone or blah, 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 blah you got. Everyone's game has been crashing. I like how it's looking. I like the aesthetic, obviously, but when you can't play the game for about a month and a half for most players until your game starts crashing, they even did it in PvP where you don't even get like timed out for your game crashing. Like you don't. You used to get timed out for like, I don't know, every 3 times your game, stopped at a weird time and it was abrupt, and they'd be like, oh, don't do that again. They don't even time you out anymore because they know a lot of it is on them with their game crashing, and they still can't optimize this despite it being this last week of the anniversary, because this is the last week of the anniversary. We do have the after party LF dropping next week, so the fact that ground battle exists and it's still not optimized despite being hyped up for a year, because that must have been what the hype was for, and I'm still crashing. You're still crashing. It's a bit silly. But still, Saiyan Saga, yeah, no, this is what really did in for me, because I like the characters, I like the choices, I think it's cool. A new implementation for a non-premium unit does exist here within Nappa, which is neat. But the fact, again, that new units didn't get anything new. Kaioken Goku is just a refurbished MZ. He's just like, oh, I'm MZ, but like an actual, like, really good design now. And then we got another pom-pom, woo, guy that dropped in the game when we just got Rev-UI. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. We just got Rev-UI Zenkai, then we get another green that is also Revival, then we also get another Revival that happens after this, and it's just like, what are you trying to tell me here? Like, what do you want from me? Also, that also hurts a lot of these other units that are kind of decent right now, like Hit. Well, Hit loses value because they're Revivals. Oh no, what am I going to time skip, a fucking First Life? No, I don't want to do that. Cell, having the Endurance Null. Well, I'm not going to have Null to Revival, so guess what? Cell's stock goes down. Everything they could have done to make units that were not Anniversary go down in stock, they did perfectly. They did that amazingly, which was probably intentional, but it's also like a fuck you. Like, why? Why is this the case? Why are we doing this? And a friendly reminder to all that this purple TN Chatsu 1% is better than Evo Vegeta, and they didn't even drop a month apart. So that's how good Evo was. And it is more team-based, TN Chatsu. But that's the point. Evo's team was Kaba, MVP, and Evo, while we got UI running with 80,000 other units. These Saiyan Saga LFs, they're supposed to work together. They do work together. Evo MUI, no harmony at all. They don't even want to fucking be in the next fucking neighborhood. And that was part 2. Ruining everything prior, upping the ante of everything post, into giving us this part 3, which, Jesus fucking Christ, this is just fucking abysmal. Yeah, I have inherent bias where I would say, yeah, I'm glad that I got Namek Saga, and I'm so happy about it. But then I look a little bit deeper than just the foundation, and I say, what the fuck did we think here? We gave new UMV a release, so we got UMV 2.0, and then we got Super Saiyan 3 Legends Fest Goku 2.0. And I know a lot of people don't like to say that about Frieza, but he is. It's not about the infinite combo, though it is a similar tie-in because of his infinite active gauge. It is the oppression creation that you cannot do anything once Frieza does combo you. That's where he's Super Saiyan 3 2.0, because there is oppression. Frieza getting that free active gauge and being as broken as he is the same oppression that Super Saiyan 3 Goku had with being immune to everything. You see how they're on the same level of par? Right? Obviously, Super Saiyan 3 is more toxic than Frieza, but the oppression creation being so easy within Frieza, and they're still both comboing to a pretty good degree, that is the part that they compare to. And I think the comparison of UMV to Namek Goku is very easy because we got Feint, AoE Green, and a lock-in. Now UMV is a little bit more tedious because obviously his gauge would usurp a Feint potential that can't exist, but the point being that they just made a more modernized version, I guess technically less toxic, like 5%, but modernized version of 2 units nobody ever enjoyed fighting in their life. And that is what this end of anniversary did. Krillin's cool, I guess. It really does make it where Namek is just DB, but correct because of how good Krillin is on his utility sense. He sucks individually, he's complete dog shit, but his utility sense is so good, it really is just like, well, this is what DB was meant to be. And, well, you don't run into a DB unit. Maybe in part 1, you run into this Kid Goku here. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Do you think by part 2 that was happening? Part 3? I don't even think people remember Kid Goku exists as an LF. He dropped less than 2 weeks before part 1. This anniversary has done severe damage, man. Again, it can't be my bottom 3. It can't, but it definitely can't be my top 2, which really all that matters is top 2. Because again, hindsight Harry here, but 6th tier, man. Fusing SV, fusing GB, yeah, they're annoying, sure. Fusing SV's guaranteed rush, fusing GB being a bit undertuned, and Assault Chain, which, where have we seen that before? Every single new mechanic release. I think even Goku's KR guard is a little bit underwhelming in the effects it does create. The mechanic itself is good, but the effects after popping it should have been more. Again, underwhelming initial release of a new mechanic. I guess that's why they didn't do it this year, because they were legitimately scared to like make something too bad, and it's an anniversary headliner. They're like, oh no! Then they fuck up. So they gave Nappa something, and it's like Nappa's subpar, and they give Goku something which is like, well, he has all this other toxic shit, so it overrides even if KO guard is ass. Which again, the mechanic of like post KO guard, what happens? Nothing compared to like, let's say, comeback with Turles. What happens? A lot. They could have done more, but again, they were scared. But again, comparing to 6th tier, you know, part 1, pretty good. You're gonna run into fusions, you're gonna run into a lot of annoying shit. It happens. What are you gonna do, right? It's not terrible, it's not amazing. Kind of on par with the same thing as, I would say, meta-wise, of part 1 of 7th tier. Maybe better off, a little bit, but whatever. Like, what do you prefer? Fusing SV rushing you guaranteed, or do you prefer fucking UI auto-dodging you? At least both the new LS were relevant at that point. Part 2, Ulton, piece of shit, sure. Again, there is some allowance to older units. You even have Rathan from obvious months prior being called top 2 once Ulton dropped. Ulton and Rathan being 1 and 2 at that rate. Fusing SV, losing more value of his rush because you have some more cancel buff effects and shit going on. You have more greens dropping, so you're kind of diversifying the meta to a degree. While it's, again, not perfect. Ulton, no escape. Ha! It's not perfect. God Goku's getting no usage. It's tough, but it is having some more diversity because Fusing SV is still running around. Now you got Ulton. Fusing it, GB could still do something, especially because Rathan's kind of back. So we're running into Assault Chain stuff, and that's good for, you know, Fusing GB to do that. It's not ideal, but it's not terrible. Then you got UG4. UG4 was not even outright, like, undisputable top 1 because you had Ulton right there still existing. And while UG4 was an ult merchant being annoying and tedious to a degree, you also couldn't really fully succeed on that. You have Ulton canceling buff effects, you have Evil Blue canceling buff effects, you have whatever else, not even a perfect team because it's UG4, Fusing SV, Fusing GB. That's a lot of fucking maintenance on that team. You gotta do a lot of extra shit to make that team work. So you have that, and again, everything from part 1 is still being run. Fusing SV and part 3 is being run. Fusing GB has a little bit more potential to be run. Obviously, he's not perfect, but he does have potential because Rathan, UG4, these are auto gauges. We're going to help do something about them. So in a totality, it's technically better than the meta we have now, where part 1 units are hardly getting used, and then within part 3, you're only seeing 4 units. You fight this, 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 and this. And frankly, you really just fight these 3. Vegeta sometimes, I give Vegeta like a 60% usage rate, while I'd give Kaioken like a 75. Then the other 2, the Ultras, I give like a 95, right? You're not fighting things that are from part 1. You're not fighting things from prior to part 1. Again, go back 6th tier. You are fighting these Rathans, these Super 17s, the occasional Super Baby 2. You're fighting these other characters. Now, I'm not saying it's a lot of them, but you are fighting the occasional ones. You know, LF Kid Buu Zenkai, CMZ, LF Kid Buu was core. Like, that was one of the best units in the game at that point. And you're fighting these other units. Well, you think you're fighting Rev UIs after part 1? Even part 2? You think you're fighting Revzas after part 2? Think you're fighting Shallot after he got his very, very, very good equipment that's giving a lot of damage inflicted, and frankly, I love saying that word apparently, is pretty good. No. None of them. Consistently? No. You're fighting 2 units, and then a third that is from part 2. So basically, if you went all in on part 1 of this anniversary, because you're like, oh, UI, so cool. Oh, Evo, so saucy. Oh my god, have my children. And then you pulled the curtain and then waited a month and a half and saw what happened here. You'd be like, I'm a bit angry because my part 1 units are irrelevant. Because they are. These units are not relevant. There's no hoping that UI is some king god right now. Sure. He's not the worst thing in the planet. No. But he's not the greatest. Frieza ignores him. Frieza's like a very strong pseudo counter to UI Goku. We have 10 zillion greens that can run right now. And while I will say there is 10 zillion greens that can run right now, you are still only fighting 2 of them. Miniku exists, Godoku exists. Even those units have gotten crept because what damage guard and damage percentiles are within these last, 4 or 5 releases of these premium units, they have legitimately power crept. Try using God Goku from part 1, who was being run often, to using God Goku during part 2, during part 3. Do it with Miniku. Do it with all these characters. You will notice so many, just wow factors of, holy shit, if I'm not making this guy glaze to the moon, he's just completely fucking pointless. And it's just within the non-anniversary units that exist. The thing is with that, 99% of the game is not from this anniversary. So the real dilemma lies where it's like, so I can't use these old guys. You're damn right. You're damn fucking tootin'. Every single unit from this anniversary, look at the top 10 list, is most likely going to be from this anniversary. And there should have been more value to older units because, shocking to say, not everyone's gonna pull the new unit legends. Do you think Double Ultra is everyone pulling them? You think so? You know they're not. You know they're not. I know they're not. This anniversary was abysmal, especially because they hyped it up. I've given it a 13 out of 30 because I give part 1 a 2 or 3 out of 10 because I think the over expectation of there was a dud. I think the leak was terrible. Doesn't help anything because I just don't like leaks in general. And then the execution of the actual units within meta. Okay, look, the meta is UI dodging and then spam green units while the other 2 units get no play. That's just fucking terrible. That's a nothing. It's a 0. Hit getting his plat kind of saves part 1 for me to make it not 2 out of 10, so I'll give it a 3 out of 10. Part 2, I think, is carried by the reveals. I really like the part 2 reveals. I think it's the best reveals of all time, so that bumps it for me from being a 3 to being about, I don't know, 5, 6 out of 10. Again, this is where I'm going to factor in the meta, which ends up being abysmal, terrible, treacherous, and that's where it kind of lies, where it's a 5 or 6. It could have been higher, but, well, it's not higher, because you can't use an older fucking unit in part 2. You can't do it in part 3, but it's starting in part 2, so that's my biggest gripe within it. So, let's give that a 5 out of 10. So right now, we're at what? An 8? We're at 8 out of 20. And then part 3, baby. As much as I love Namek, as much as I love the reveals, because I think it was also cool, the little fake out thing, very much confused everyone, including me. I'd give it a 6, just because of my very, very high bias. If I didn't care about the Saiyan Saga or Namek Saga, they'd both probably be downgraded by at least 1 to 2 points. I'd give it a 6. So for me, we're just increasing the flow of stupidity within this anniversary, within the power creep from part 2 to part 3. I don't blame part 3 for it, because they have to keep up with it. I blame part 2 for it, so that's why part 3 doesn't get as much hate for it, though the units definitely do. But we're giving it a 6. It's a 14 out of 30. That's not even 50% of goodness. It's anniversary. The Lacter of Zenkais, the lacter of LF Plats, the lacter of Ultra Plats, because we should have got more than just fucking one. There's just so many things that lacked and failed. Like, how many dead weeks did we have? Like, how many weeks like this current week did we have during this anniversary? 4, 5? At least. Anniversary is 2 months long. So we got 4 to 5 dead weeks. That's what? 9 weeks, 8 weeks total. Half those weeks and plus have been dead. You give me a rev, whatever the fuck, Revza Zenkai, and I'm just here like, sure, that's good, that's great. So can you give me something else with that? The end of Legends Fest 2024 gave us 2 Zenkais and a Plat. God Goku Plat and GV tag Goku Vegeta, the OG, as well as LF Gogeta Blue, the OG Zenkai. That all happened the last week. The final presence of Legends Fest 2024. And this, we got an Awaken Equip and a shitty free-to-play unit. And that about sums up 7th anniversary. Not ideal, not great. For how much it was hyped up, maybe it should be bottom 3 anniversary for me, but I'll keep it at number 4. Yeah, it's the 4th worst anniversary out of 7. That's really good because you glazed it for 9 fucking years and then it still fucking sucked. I hope they do better next year. It's just sad because they always care about anniversary more, like on paper, but then every time anniversary happens, it usually ends up being that previous fest could be argued as good, if not a little bit better. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know if this previous fest is better, but I would say it's on par because there's such a low bar for this. At least I can, this is my whole logic. At least I can use units I want to use within that fest. It's not perfect, but I could use units I want to use. Me trying to use an old unit now, it's like I'm stapling a fucking, I don't know, like, it's like I'm stapling my fucking balls and I'm just like, no, I don't want to do that, man. But anytime I try to, with how these units have been incorporated, that's what it is. That's what it is. And you'll never run into a non-anniversary unit, non-anniversary buffed unit. You'll never at this anniversary. Other anniversaries, sure, always. This one, and that's the kicker, bro. That's the kicker. Let me know what you guys think of my thoughts on 7th year. This shit was a fumble. See you in the next one.